Well, hello, Mike. Welcome to the Naked Dialogue podcast. Ever since we connected cybernetically, I've been really inspired by your Instagram videos, and I also watched a bunch of your YouTube videos. And I think I was particularly really inspired by the Tyson video where you get deep about your life and you were with your dad and how much he inspired you. I think I remember like one quote that you said. I mean, like one thing that you said that's almost like a quote which was like, I'm the architect of everything that happens to me. And it was really, really inspiring. So I kind of wanted to, let you describe in your own words how your journey has been, so far, ever since boxing and like then you getting into the supplement industry and like how you're doing now.
Okay. So, you know, since a very young age, I feel like I've had a very good level of self-awareness, right? Excuse me. And with that, I was the only child. So, my imagination would run and I thought a lot. And I think I developed a lot of like interpersonal and intrapersonal intelligence. And I used to think about things as a kid and be like, I used to ruin experiences for myself because I think about it beforehand too much. I'm like, man, I wish I didn't think of that. And then it would never be as good. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, but I think like my beginning, my genesis, it gave birth to a lot of like just deep thoughts into who I am. And I think being alone a lot kind of helps with that. So it's all types of different people in this world. I'm very fascinated in evolutionary biology, right? It's so fascinating to me. And I can't help but to think about different types of, say, for instance, different human species. Let's go back to like just animals, period. Now, I haven't lost sight of your question. It's all connected. So I'm just trying to set the stage. Excuse me. So, we all have evolved from more primitive creatures. And, modern humans have been here, they say, approximately 200,000 years, right? So you have a scale from that 200,000 years ago till say now, right? A spectrum, if you will. And I feel like there's different levels of evolved people, right? So some are way over here and very evolved, like yourself, and some are way down here, like cavemen. You know what I mean? And then you have just within each stage of evolution, you have like just so much nuance in it. So I feel like the archetype or the type of cloth that I'm torn from is probably not the most efficient type of human for now, for these modern times. I guess I'm what people would consider like an alpha male. I'm very aggressive. To be honest, I have the potential capacity for violence. Um, you know, I speed through life. The classic type A asshole, I guess you could say. I have all of those characteristics. But I know I do. And, I do want to be a good person. So I have to put a lot of effort into, I always say, taming the beast. So, but I don't think how I am by default is good for humanity. It can't be a bunch of people like me because it would be all war at all times, and I'm aware of that. So with that, I am deeply rooted in ethics and being ethical because I have really good like grandparents and good upbringing, right? Even though I went astray at certain times in my life, I always had that foundation and never went too far. So I kind of looked at things that I went through as somewhat of a heroic journey, right? And I think that's common and for young men or for men in general in their development, right? Depending on what kind of life they want to live. Now, there's some people that don't ever experience that, right? Some kind of heroic journey, and I can get into what that means. But those men tend to have, pretty mundane lives, and don't really touch on greatness or the highs and lows of life, right? And I touch on all of those things, the lowest of lows, the highest of highs, right? And it's still ongoing. So, you know, my life, like my upbringing is very interesting. I've put myself in a lot of interesting situations. Every situation I put myself in, I've gotten myself out of. So that's a good thing. I'm a survivor, I'm a thriver, you know? So I just know who I am. I don't hide it. And I live deeply, firmly like implanted in my truth. And people like that and they respect it. And I try, I try the best that I can to always do the right thing and think about other people, you know? So yeah, so even though I have those deep rooted, you know, caveman ways, I love people and I love being around people and I love making people feel good. So, you know, how my life is now is like really a life of service, especially for those who I love and care about and I want to be in my world. So I try to provide a lot of comfort and a lot of value for people I care about and I want to be around me so they don't ever leave me. So they want to stay in my world, in my solar system. And I'm the sun.
No, I wouldn't say at all, even if you feel like you're an aggressive person, right? Just having that knowledge that you are what you can be, you know, it's always good to know that because, you know, Carl Jung would often talk about this process of individuation. And in order to become a more whole person, you need to know both your positive side and your shadow self. And unless and until you've not integrated this shadow self with your actual self, you won't be this integrated whole person. And I think you are one of those people because whenever I see your videos, you know, there's no filter. You know, you're speaking from the heart. You know, you even said that, you know, things are not good and bad, things are utility. So that, you know, says something about you that you see opportunities, you thrive, as you said. So I would like from my side, I don't think I would ever view you like that because I think you are, you know, what you are portraying to the social media, the world, you know, the people you're with. You're a pure soul. So I would not, you know, at all see you the way that you would. And also, you said something about overthinking, which is, you know, quite the case with a lot of people. We tend to overthink a lot, and then, you know, things either go bad or not the way we want it to go. But I think at a very primitive level, it's just the way our human psyche has been made up, you know. So it's okay. We all overthink, but the fact that we're aware of it makes us a more whole person. And I think you are that. I mean, you're doing such a
Yeah.
good. No, please go ahead.
Sorry, say it again. Yeah, it's interesting. You say that primitive side of us, like that's the thing. I'm very in tune with my primitive nature, right? But I'm also in tune with my more evolved nature, right? And I'm constantly trying to evolve each day. So, for instance, like let's step to another topic like psychedelics, right? Like when I've taken those deep journeys, and you know, a lot of people experience what's called the ego dissolution, right? I was faced with that, but I see no reason to dissolve my ego. You know, I just can recognize it and sit it to the side for when I need it because my ego benefits me in great ways, in many ways, and my ego also benefits people around me, right? So, you know, and I think that's part of it, with being tapped into that reptile brain and that, you know, robust cerebral cortex, you know. So I think like why separate? Why kill one side unless you can't control it, right? Then I guess you have to. But I control everything. You know, it's interesting. It's like just being a conscious thinker and being aware of the conscious and the subconscious mind. It's like, you know, I've experimented with a lot of different types of drugs, like psychedelics, and I'm always in control, you know? And it kind of sucks to an extent because I'm never too far gone, which I want to be sometimes, but it's okay. I accept it. That's just who I am, right? I'm always in control. I'm very aware of whatever I'm doing is doing to my brain. I know that it's temporary, even if it's uncomfortable, it's temporary. I know it's gonna go away. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think being hyper aware, it kind of kills some joy, but I feel like I have a huge advantage in a lot of situations in life because I'm always on point, you know?
No, you're completely right. And you mentioned ego dissolution. Even like when I've gone through my own psychedelic journeys, it's been a huge part. Like one time I took 500 micrograms of lysergic, and that was probably like a heroic dose to take. And I was out for 3 hours having no clue, who I am. And it
Mm.
was I had many mixed emotions. Like one emotion was that why am I putting myself through this? But at the same time, when you don't have any ego, it's as if you don't even exist. And then you realize, all of these truths, which are so primitive in nature, but at the same time so obvious, right? Like we don't even look at them that way. And I've had those experiences on lysergic, and I think LSD is probably one of my own, like my psychedelic. There's so many
Me too.
psychedelics out there.
Me too. Yeah.
You only connect with one. I'm not saying that other experiences are not good, but like it seems as if the one really fits. And for me, it's definitely LSD.
Have you ever done MDMA?
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
So with MDMA, like for me, it's not it. Like like because I feel like maybe I've done it not correctly, not the way it's supposed to be done. Because you're supposed to have like a dose which fits you. So like your weight into like a certain milligram is supposed to be the exact dose that you're supposed to take.
Uh-huh.
And I think I've taken larger doses and not felt good on it. Like not felt the way I was supposed to be feeling.
What do you what do you think you were supposed to feel?
I think I was supposed to feel content, right? Like one of the first things for MDMA is like, yeah, you might get this anxious buildup, but at some point you need to feel like you're grounded, you're content, happy, euphoria, sensitivity, all of these things. Yes, colors go bright too on MDMA and stuff like that, and this sense of connecting with everyone. Even like for me, I feel like I tend to go more in, even when it comes to like lysergic trips. I'm like, I can't take like, yeah, go
With
ahead.
the MDMA, was it a really good source that you got it from?
Here's the thing, I would never know because I couldn't test it, right? So wherever I'm getting the MDMA from, I have no clue exactly what it is, like unless the person that's giving it to you is making sure, like, this is what you get.
See, I guess my experience is a lot different. So LSD is my number one because I feel like it is extremely therapeutic for me and it does a lot of good for me, right? I haven't done it in a while and I need to because I've been kind of on edge, you know? So, but second to that is 100% the MDMA. And now my source is someone that I trust. They really respect me. They really care about me. So we had a talk. I said, look, I don't want Molly. I don't want ecstasy. I want just pure MDMA. So can you give me your word that that's what I'm going to get? And they did. And it's been very consistent. And now the difference between that and LSD is a certain level of LSD that you do is very euphoric, puts you in a good mood. Everything feels great. That's all that's all MDMA does. It doesn't get you to that next level. It doesn't get it's not extremely psychoactive. It just makes you very, very happy and very loving, right? So, and I like that, but like just because I don't look at a right or wrong way to do any of these things. I don't think that we don't have to put like attach nobility with psychedelics, like, oh, it has to be for therapy. It should be for whatever you want it to be, you know? So I do take the MDMA sometimes for social gatherings or just hanging out with friends and loved ones, you know, because it makes it way better. So never felt uncomfortable with it. I think it's so perfect because it's a drug that you cannot abuse because if you keep taking more, you won't feel it, right? So it lasts about 3 hours, maybe 2 to 3 hours, and then it just wears off. You're not tired or anything. So I like that. I don't do anything that makes me tired afterwards, or the next day I can't be productive. So I wouldn't do that. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe you're not getting it from a good source, right? That could be possible, but we get like great stuff here, in California. So I actually just got more yesterday because all my friends, I'll get some, but they take it all, and I give it to everybody. And listen, it's like, it's very consistent with everybody experiences. It's such a beautiful thing. It just puts you just in a loving space. There's an old couple that I listened to. They were talking about their experience with it. And these guys were like hippies from back in the days, but they're in their 70s now. And they said, we don't do drugs anymore, but we do MDMA. It's a married couple. We do MDMA maybe once a month because it keeps us in love. And I was like, I can totally see why, like what they mean by that. You know what I mean? So it really heightens, like it puts you firm in your truth, which I feel like all psychedelics do. It just makes what's real to you is very prevalent. And, yeah, it just brings love to the forefront. It's so strange that these chemicals do this to us. You know what I mean? It's so weird. And when you think about lysergic, excuse me?
No, you're completely right about MDMA experiences. Yeah.
And lysergic, like I love that. And it's like, it grows on a fungus, argot. And its mechanisms for that is to kill insects, predators. It binds to their receptors and kills them, but it binds to ours and enlightens us, which is so crazy. You know what I mean? It's so bizarre. I'm blown away by like just life in general and our existence. I kind of look at life as like, if you understand like physiology, you know that we live symbiotically with billions of microorganisms and microbiomes all throughout our bodies. And who knows if a microbe that lives on us or in us knows that it's a part of us, or if it's conscious or not. You know what I'm saying? And has a life, right? Like just like that, we are literally parts of the earth. We all come from the earth. When we die, we go back into the earth. You know what I'm saying? It's freaky. And the earth, if you really have a good understanding of anthropology, the earth is a living, breathing organism. It's alive. You know what I mean? And we come from out of it. So it's like, what if we're just cells on the earth, It's crazy. It's crazy to think about,
Yeah, you're right. Like all of these noble truths come to fruition when we're on all of these different psychoactive substances, and also like higher meditative states for some people. Like you were talking about MDMA. Like it's completely true about feeling close with people and like in different settings. Now it's going to be legalized in probably 2 years. With MAPS working on it, like we've already have phase 3 trials which have concluded that it's good for post-traumatic stress disorder and whatnot. So we're seeing the potential of all of these drugs. So okay, I'm not sure if you've heard of 2CB. It's this phenethylamine which was synthesized by Alexander Shulgin.
What is it called?
2CB.
2CB. Okay, I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, it's a phenethylamine. So I would describe it as like a combination of lysergic and MDMA together. And lasts for like around 6 hours if you take around 22 mgs, 20 mg, which is standard dose. And you will first feel like a bit of euphoria, and then you will start seeing, you'll start to hallucinate as well. Like one of the experiences I personally had on it was reliving memories. So it was as if the time, even though we have time distortions on most of psychedelics, it felt like I was going back and reliving all of those moments where I hadn't been present. And all of those moments were connected to nature. And there was this one time when I went back and I was sitting, the music was playing, but for some reason I was not attentive to the birds that were going and the lively plants around me. And for some reason I go back and I relive it, and then I come back, and then I go back and then I come back. It happened for like 2.5 hours. So highly recommend trying phenethylamines too. Like Alexander Shulgin, by default, he has two books, Tekal and Pikal, which are
Yeah, I
really,
have.
really good. Yeah,
I
if you go,
got both. I haven't read them yet, but I have them.
you should
Yeah.
totally read it. Like the guy,
Yeah.
was a legend. He synthesized so many drugs, tried so many drugs. Even for Mdma, he was quite like, the advocate, I would say.
Yeah.
He wasn't for, people like him, maybe we won't even, know about these psychoactive substances. So it's
Right.
usually very, very good to, just experiment. I think I'm a psychonaut to a very high extent. So I tend to experiment as much as I can just to see, what's going on here and how much can I, yeah, like how much can I play with this to understand both the consciousness and what's happening in my external and immediate environment. So, it's always enlightening. Even the bad trips are good trips, for me personally, because like bad trips happen for a reason. They're trying to probably show you sides of you that you don't even know. And so I would like write them down and like analyze them. It's like dreams. It's literally like dreams. You have good dreams, you have bad dreams.
What do you fear?
I think I fear, like at a very primitive level, not being understood. As a philosopher, as a thinker, even as a person, it's my greatest fear is to not being understood. What would be your greatest fear?
I don't have any, and I'm being honest. Sometimes I sit and I take inventory of just everything in my life and my experiences, and I don't have any fears. So when I was young, actually, I'm lying. I do have fear. My only fear is I'm a father, right? My only fear is my children being uncomfortable and I can't help. I would lose it. I don't know if I'm strong enough to handle that, right? That's it. But I love the experience that I've been having and am having with my children. But that is a constant, I'm always worried about them. So I guess that would be the only thing. But when I was young, as a kid, I was afraid of everything. And fear is a form of intelligence, right? It keeps you safe. But I was just afraid of everything because I was a very imaginative person. And, when you're alone as a kid, it's scary because the world is so big. And I hated feeling powerless and insignificant. So I think like that heroic journey I talked about earlier, I think I've always sought out to lift weights, to be a boxer, to be smart. Try to be smart, read a lot, whatever. I sought out to do all of these things to empower myself, to make me powerful, right? And I'm still going, right? It's not like I've reached it and I'm good. Like, nah, life don't work like that. So I've conquered, I feel like I've conquered, 99% of my fears. And I'm super as confident as one can be with everything. You know what I mean? So I just don't have any. And I used to be afraid of a lot. I used to have bad dreams. It's like, shit, I don't want to go to sleep. I'm scared. That used to be me back in the day. And I remember the last one I had, as I got older, I started becoming very defiant to my fears. So it's like, please come, bring it, please try to scare me, try. And it doesn't happen. So, I'm really bold and daring and let's see what it is. So I don't have any, but I asked you that because you say you had bad trips and I haven't had any bad trips. Now, the first time I did LSD, I was probably 19, way too young to do it because I didn't even know why I was doing it, just because my friends had it. And I never did drugs like that. I wasn't into drugs growing up. I haven't done any drugs until last year. Right. Yeah. So anyway, I did it the first time. We just sat and laughed all night. Right. Silly. So much fun. The second time was a lot different. So it was a lot of weird stuff happening that day. And it just picked, when I took it, it picked up in the midst of me experiencing all of this negativity. And so it was, I guess, what one would call a bad trip. Now, the difference between back then and if I take it now is I'm a lot stronger of a person mentally now than I was then, right? I was a kid. And, and men, it takes a long time to mature way longer than women, right? So I was very immature and not, I was a child. So I hated it. It was so terrible. It was like me being just aware. I'm like feeling my heartbeat. I'm like, it's beating too fast. I might die. You know what I'm saying? Thinking all this stuff. And then I tried to like smoke weed and drink to like kill the feeling. And I visualized the high. The LSD was like this big box, and the weed smoke was like a little bit, it was like a little speck in this big box, and it couldn't do anything. The alcohol was little drips. So I couldn't even feel that stuff. So it was really interesting. But back then I had no intentions on why I was doing it. Right. So now I do. So it's a lot different. And I'm just in control of myself now. I've kind of mastered certain aspects of myself. So I don't get bad trips, and I've done a lot. Like, let's see, never anything negative. What was your experience on your bad trips?
So I think I only had one bad trip, and that was on LSD, and it was only for like an hour, where I felt like super paranoid. So I was in this park setting with my friends and everything, and I felt like everyone was talking about me, but like it was as if they were saying the thoughts, like it was as if my thoughts about myself, like the bad ones, it was coming out of their mouths. And I was like,
Mm.
no, like are they like, well, what is happening? Why are they saying all of these things about me? Did I have to think about myself? Happened for like an hour, maybe more. Who knows? Like time distortion. And
Yeah.
like when I, went out of that setting to like another one, the trip continued, of course. But when I woke up next morning, I was like, that was something. And like 6 months later or so, like maybe seven, I understood why. It was because I had all of these insecurities about me that had not checked, that you're supposed to check. So there's this amazing radio recording of Timothy Leary that's very rare to access. I actually sent it to you. And he basically guides one through a trip. And he says that all the baggage, it has to be checked, as a person is going through a trip. And, it
Yeah.
just came into my mind that I hadn't checked all of these things.
Yeah.
And then I started checking, and it was like, yeah, I need to get over these insecurities, get over all of these fears that I have. Because that's what's going to make me a better person at the end of the day. Like, how am I supposed to function in a society if I'm not even myself? Like how can I be productive? So I think that would be a bad trip, but then also a lesson learned from that, because I think there's always meaning behind things.
Yeah. I get that. Yeah. I did a heroic dose with LSD, and the only uncomfortable thing was in the beginning me trying to fight it and trying to be like, I got this, I'm fine, I'm normal, right? And the world, the physical universe was just weird, like I'm walking and like I couldn't tell if the floor was where it was at or if it was further down. So I'm trying to appear normal to everybody. I don't want to seem like I'm on anything. I want to seem normal. So that was making me uncomfortable. That's it. But once I submitted, I just got in my car, my assistant drove me home, then everything just made sense, right? But it was weird. I had a weird experience with her. Like she's somebody that I care about still to this day. And, she was my assistant. She doesn't work for me anymore because she was waiting to get into medical school, and she's in. But she and I were romantically involved to an extent, and it's I feel like it's kind of hard to not do that with the opposite sex if you love them. And I'm a loving person, and just things just progressed to that. But we kept it still professional, but we had crossed those lines of intimacy and love, and it was nothing bad there. It was nothing negative. But the day that I did it, I took the big dose. We were in my gym in Long Beach, and I'm looking at her, and her face was just being weird, right? So it was me, her, and two other people, two of my friends. We were doing some work, and I'm looking at them. Their faces are normal. I'm looking at her, and it was just weird. I kept saying, like, "Are you okay?" She like, her voice was normal, real cute voice, like, "Yeah, I'm fine." I was like, "Can you come here real quick?" And it was still the same. I just couldn't look at her. You know, I don't know what that was about, because everything else that I experienced on that journey made a lot of sense, but that didn't, you know, it didn't. So that was really interesting, you know. I don't know what to make of that, you know, but it was so weird. And it's interesting because the distortions, I've never hallucinated, but I see distortions. And if what I was seeing in her face is just distortion, why wasn't I seeing it in their faces? You know? And I went in the bathroom to look at myself and nothing. So I'm like, this is so weird, you know? Interesting. So do you ever do psychedelics for recreation?
Not really. I think like the first few times I did it with my friends, it seemed as if it was recreation because it's like, you know, you're with friends, like everything. But then at some point after two of these psychedelic trips with my friends, I was like, no, this is not a drug that I should be doing or disrespecting for some reason. I felt that way. Like I felt
Right.
like I need to be by myself if I really need to utilize this medicine to the core. And then I started doing these lysergic trips within my own room, you know, with probably no one around. And then, you know, so one of the first things that would happen is that I would start crying. And is you know how you get like this anxious buildup sometimes, or like you feel, you know, the lysergic is coming up. And I used to wonder, like, why the hell do I cry all the time when, you know, this happens? But then I understood it's like taking all of your emotional baggage out so you can enter the trip in peace and tranquility. And then that started happening. And then I would cry everything out. It felt like so good. Even though like when you're crying, you feel like, why am I crying? You know? So yeah, that was very, very profound to realize that lysergic can do all of these things, you know, like there's so many things that surgery can do. Also about feeling paranoid, right? I was once in Amsterdam and I had taken this big ass brownie, right? And so at the shop they were like, you know, take half of it and like you're all good. But I feel like I'm really good with weed. Like I can go like as low as possible and I still be, you know, like I'm good. Like I can smoke my friends out, you know, and I would still be okay. So I was like, you know what, like, you know, this brownie, I'm gonna take the entire thing because I'm the person to take it. And I took it, went into the Van Gogh Museum, and then I was like, yo, like, you know, I was like 20 minutes there, started kicking it. And then at some point it was so intense that I started feeling like everyone's looking at me again. And like, you know, they're gonna judge me so hard. I went into like a supermarket for some reason that I didn't even know. I'm taking like rounds and rounds and rounds for like 20 minutes. And then I realized, dude, I've been doing this for too long. And now people are looking at me. So that was probably one, like, you know, brownie trip, I would say, that freaked me out. But very interesting experimenting with, you know, everything probably.
Yeah. See, marijuana, I don't like. I I don't feel sharp. I feel dull, you know? So I don't like anything that makes me feel not on point, you know? So, all right, so a question for you. So what is it that you're studying?
So I'm studying psychology, psychoanalysis, artificial intelligence, digital. So it's like a liberal arts degree, right? It's a bunch of subjects, Middle Eastern studies, then also philosophy. So that kind of allows me to like be a very multidisciplinary person, like dive into like literally everything. And with the
What,
podcast, like, you know, I've been able to not only dive in social sciences, but also hard sciences. Like because I have like such a like I just want to know everything. This is the kind of person I like. I want to
yeah,
experience everything. I want to know everything. I want to be everywhere. Like I'm just that person.
yeah.
So
There's so much to learn. So much to
it's
learn. So why not?
yeah. So
Yeah.
why not? Like you have one life. Why not like just take advantage of it as much as possible? So yeah, that's what I study and that's what I try to, you know, just be everywhere, experience everything, learn everything.
So Middle Eastern studies, what does that entail?
So Middle Eastern studies basically you study about all of the Middle Eastern countries and how their relations are. So I think one of the, you know, primary courses were around Israel-Palestine issues, and you know how it has been going for so long, and you know what's the history. Most of my courses were around that. Like I was also like in Israel for 3 years, so I saw the entire conflict happen. Like I was in Tel Aviv and and around the month of April, it would always happen, like these bombs and everything, rockets coming in, being intercepted. Like I experienced all of that, like going all the way down to bomb shelters. But by the third year, I was like, it's probably not gonna hit. So like, why am I going to leave my room and go down? Like there was this one time last year actually, when this started happening, and I was like, I was in my room, I was smoking a joint, and I was like, da da da, the whole thing goes off, and I'm like, yeah, it's probably not gonna hit. And then, you're supposed to, on your phone, like in Israel, everyone has like these bomb alert apps and everything. And it tells you exactly where it's going to hit, or like, the alert is going off. And I look at the phone and it's like literally my street. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, and then I'm like, and I'm hiding, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to get up and then I'm going to go down. And then I went all the way down. And as I was going down, I was like, and like but it was intercepted, like it thankfully did not land, but like I experienced all of the both from the Israeli side and the Palestine side. Like I take a neutral stance because I know how people feel on both sides. It's always very aggressive from this side, from that side. So you need to understand both sides, I guess.
Yeah, no, I get it. I understand both sides. I'm a Muslim, but I'm not religious. It's just my family, but I'm not religious at all. I'm just a person, and I have Jewish friends, and I don't talk about any of this stuff with them, right? But one of my friends, I do want to have that conversation with. I even want to ask him. I love him, and I think he's a really good person. But I dive into studies because I'm fascinated by life as well, and I'm into history and how things have come to be. And I want to ask him, he's, European, he's American, but he's a white man, he's Jewish. And I wanted to ask him, how did Europeans become Jewish? You know what I mean? So I've asked a couple and they're stumped, right? I read some things, but I want to see what they tell me, you know what I mean? And I don't just throw it out, well, I read this. I don't do that, because it's not important, right? But there is kind of unfair treatment of people in that region who were Jewish way before they were, and they are still very religious when a lot of them are not, especially in America. They're not at all, and they have a lot of organizations that do detriment to Black people here in this country. And it's shrouded around civil rights, but it doesn't benefit us. It hurts us. But we don't, collectively, Black people don't see it, And, but, that's a whole nother thing. But I just like for things to be fair. And I know that life is not fair, so I get it, it's not. So that's another reason why, like, when I say I don't fear anything, because I try to arm myself with as much weaponry, mentally, spiritually, physically as possible, because I know life is not fair. And I don't ever want to be a victim, And my heart goes out to people that are victims, and I try to stand up for people that are victims. But I'll be damned if I'm ever a victim or people I love and care about are victims, Because it's interesting, like, of course I identify with a group. I'm a Black man in America, but I'm also just a human, and I'm also just myself. I know that everybody don't care about me, you know what I'm saying? So, I have a real dynamic thought process when it comes to all of that stuff. And I try to deal with things just on an individual basis. And I deal with people on the merit of who they are, not their group, because that can be dangerous, And we hear a lot of talk about tribalism, and that'll never go away, So it's just all interesting. It's weird. Like, people really love to be a part of a group. They want to be a part of something, whatever it is. So it's all interesting. I'm just sitting back, observing, watching it all, So another question for you. I feel like I'm interviewing you. Have you ever been to America?
No, not yet. But I do plan to one day.
When is that?
Probably next year, whenever I want to pursue my master's or PhD, I think that's definitely a destination I want to be.
What do you think you'll pursue it at?
I think I want to go somewhere between neuroscience and artificial intelligence.
No,
Because
no. What school? What school?
for school, I think somewhere either in California or depends. You know, Boston has a lot of like everything's there, so like you have to be there.
I
Or
would
New York.
recommend.
Depends.
I would recommend California.
Yeah, no, definitely California because it's all of the legalization and everything, and like also the vibe. I think it seems very nice. You know, like Tel
Mm.
Aviv, honestly, like you should totally go there. Like, it's so open and it has like all of these international people. Like everyone's there, and it's like a vibe entirely. It's like a place where you just go and you're like, wow, like these people are so chill. Like everyone's just chilling out here. Yeah, you do see the tension when the tensions are happening. Like, but then there's no person I've ever encountered there like on the streets that ever made me feel like, hey, like, like you're crazy or something, like any kind of violence at all. Although, there's racism everywhere, I would say, all around the world. Um, and even with Indians, that, like when I was living here in India, I used to think, there's probably no racism, like I was just a kid, and as soon as I was 18, went to Israel, I just started seeing that people would notice you differently or isolate you, alienate you based on your skin color. Even if you're just like brown, like, it's just like, and I was just like, like why? And then I understood these deeper issues that we have in our society. And it was scary. It was very scary because like I say, 18, 19-year-old, it was never experienced it because like you were in your country, felt like, wow, like this is a real issue. So yeah, dealing with that was kind of hard. But then as you integrate yourself, as like I have knowledge, I have all of these good qualities in me. It doesn't have to do anything with my skin color, anything with my country, anything. You come to this realization that like even if it's a thing, I'm not going to let that interfere with my head that much because then that's going to interfere with my attitude in general, how I treat myself. Because as you said, you have to concentrate on yourself as well. And I think that's something everyone needs to do. If you're not whole, then how are you going to contribute in anywhere?
True, very true. What's life like for you in India? How is it?
It's nice. Like, I think I've been like in this phase of life, where it's been a lot of struggle. Like, for now, like for the last few months, been in very dark, depressive phases. But then recently came out of it, thankfully, due to just like house environment and everything. But like not like being in India all by itself. But yeah, living in India is kind of like it's it's crazy in the sense that we have 28 states and every state has its own like culture, own language, on all the way people deal with everything. Like I grew up mostly in Delhi, but then whenever I would go, like my parents would like they love moving basically. They love to explore every part of India or like even internationally. So they moved to like all of these several states, and every state I would go, I'm like, wow, like I like these people are different. Like it seems very different, even though we have one country. It seems like 28 different countries. Like it's crazy. So it's literally that colorful diversity, I would say.
Okay. So are you engaged, married, single, date? Do you date? Like what's your social life like? If that's not too personal.
Oh no, it's all good. I'm single at the moment. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm. Do you date?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Mhm.
How's that? How's that out there? Or
I mean, I've only like really had like probably one good relationship, and I've of course dated people. Like I think there's dating, then there's relationships, and then there are people here. So you just do
yeah,
whatever with. And
right.
my own experience so far, just like as a 21-year-old, I would say, I think when I was
Wait,
18,
you're 21?
oh yeah, I'm 21.
Wow, you seem way more mature than 21. Yeah,
Do
that's
you
good.
think so?
You don't look you look 21, but you seem just more seasoned, more intellect than a 21-year-old. You know,
Thank
that's
you.
good. That's good.
Yeah, no, like when I was 18, 19, like, I would say that that was the age when you're exploring, everything, like, you're out, you're independent, all of these relationships and everything. You actually start living with a person, like instead, like when I was back in school, it's like, you're just meeting in school and then going back home. Then you tend to, like, I had good experiences, then I had a lot of bad experiences with relationships. And then it made me realize, all of the issues that were with me, that, you always think that I had a bad relationship, like, fuck that person because, it's because of them, or it's because of her, who knows. But then at the end of the day, you realize that, there's things inside of you, like insecurities, jealousy, whatnot, like, that you haven't really thought about. That's not always them, but it's also always to some extent you. Not to say
Yeah.
that the other person is not to blame at all, but like, that's something that I realized from this year actually. This year, and you said like you have to be in isolation to realize all of these deeper things. I do that too. Like I need to be alone with myself for periods of time, without any interference to like get into these deeper states to like check all of these demons and like check all of these insecurities to become like a whole person. If I'm not doing that, then life is going up and down, up and down, up and down, because there's this subconscious, unconscious, like all, jittery, I would say. All of these dreams started coming out and they're trying to tell you all of these subliminal messages that, hey, like, this symbolism means this thing, or that person popping up in your dreams means that. And you just ignore them unless and until you actually sit down and, check yourself. And that's something I realized this year. I think I'm going slowly,
Yeah. All right. What's in the cards for you? Like, do you want to be married one day, or that's not for everybody. Like, what's ideal for you?
I've thought about that a lot for the past few months actually. And I think, yeah, like it depends how it rolls out. Like, I've seen my own, like on my own parents' relationship, like people around, and I've learned a lot, from what it actually means to be married, like, what commitment is and what having kids is like, and it scares me to a good extent because like I want to be a good mother, I want to be a good wife, all of those things. And but at the same time, like there has to be this one person who has to be there for me to be all of those things, that the person has to have a good personality and a good intellect. Like there has to be a good combination of that. And so that he stays even, even if you have kids, doesn't run away, You see all of these things in media and like, films and
Yeah.
everything, you get scared.
Well,
So yeah,
there's
one day
some
maybe.
there's some science to that, to the guys that leave, right? So, reading about, just evolutionary history and all, early humans, all the way to modern humans have done something very consistent. When men get impregnate a woman, after around a 2 to 3 year mark, they leave, right? And it's like, well, why is this happening at this period of time? So our ancestors, relationships were different then, right? People would stay together for the success of that child. But once the child would hit 2 to 3, it's not going to die, then the guy would leave and go do it again somewhere else, right? And it's as if we're programmed for that here, like now, because now they say people usually divorce or whatever. Well, in this country, divorce is super high. It's 50 something percent. More people get divorced than stay together, right? And I think I understand why. But anyway, but when guys have children with women around the 2 to 3 year mark, they leave. And nobody's thinking like, all right, my kid's not gonna die. I'm out of here. You know what I'm saying? But it's like we're doing the same thing from back then. Now, I was a parent at an early age. And like I say, when I was a young man, and young men, just full of power and energy, but is not refined. It's just wow. And I was that guy, right? So, over the years, I've become more refined, and I think I'm more powerful, but it's very streamlined and controlled, right? So that's why my children live with me. So look at my situation, my living situation. So I have my girlfriend lives with me, my children's mother lives with me, and my children live with me. One big family. And my children's mother and I are not romantic. but I love her and I take care of her still, and I always will. She's like one of my closest friends. So, you know, I live like, I'm like, why would I not bring her into the home so I can be with my children, right? And really, like, I architect my life, architect theirs, because I didn't have that kind of guidance from my father. Like, my father was there, but my father wasn't that strong, you know, to really, and he didn't, you know, his achievements in life were not much, you know, and that's not his fault. I don't blame him. You know, it was really bad for Black people then, you know what I'm saying? Coming out of civil rights. So it was really bad. So, you know, I don't fault him for that, but I learned a lot, you know, and I had to attribute a lot to myself to be able to be what I feel is being a good person, you know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, but the marriage thing here in this country, it's like, it's funny because I have, like, when I podcast and people ask about relationships, oh my God, it goes back and forth. And everybody does videos about my response to this, that, and third. And it's because you know, I'm a polygamist, right? And I talk about it and I tell people about it. And, you know, some people judge, but I'm like, but you guys don't have successful relationships. I said, all of America is polygamous. They just lie about it, right? The men lie and the women are in denial to an extent. So, because a woman like, no, my man, I will not share my man with nobody. Da, da, da. I'm like, you probably already sharing them. You don't know it. You know what I mean? And I don't think that's okay. You know, men should not lie. Men and no one should lie to anybody, but especially to someone you love, you care about, you know? And, you know, the last podcast I did that wasn't mine, it was in Miami. And these guys, it's like a relationship channel that they have. It's really cool, but it's funny, but they had me, my girlfriend, and a girl that we were dating, and like 9 girls. Everybody's asking questions, we're talking and stuff like that. So at the end of it was a 3-hour talk. So at the end of it, they went down the line, asked every girl, because they always like, no way, right? In the beginning. At the end of it, they always like, yeah, I would do it. Like, hearing their perspective, I would 100% do it, you know? Because it's out of love. It's like, I'm a lover. I love, right? Hard. But with that love, I protect, right? And I take care of. And whoever's in my life, I want them to be, you have no worries. You know what I mean? And, you know, I'm just a fair person. And the best thing, I feel like the most charitable thing that we can do for each other is to be super honest with each other. You know what I'm saying? When you know that you can rely on that person to have your back and to be 100% honest, that's just a good feeling, you know? So I'm always that person in my relationships, you know? And even in relationships of the past that didn't work out for, you know, usually some personality stuff, stuff like that, we're still really tight, really good friends. You know what I mean? It's never a bad fallout or anything like that. You know, everybody, I'm always a phone call away. So, like, I have this thing to where I'm very aware that I'm going to die one day, right? So I would like for you, your last experience with me, or anybody that I ever meet or deal with, I would like for their last experience with me to be very positive and pleasant. If I die tomorrow, you know what I'm saying? So I try to live like that. And I wish more people would. I feel like if people really accept death, that they would live like that. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like the world could be a better place. Who knows? Maybe not, but you know, who knows? All right, speaking about that. Now, we have the metaverse, right? You know, people talk of the possibility of uploading your consciousness into the cloud. And if that's achieved, we could possibly be immortal, live forever, right? So I was thinking about it. What if we achieve that, right? And what if we fuck up by doing that? Because what if when we die here, it's better? Another level of consciousness and experiences, right? What if we don't experience that because we're in the cloud, still existing in this? Now, I'm not even gonna say artificial, but in the next level of our existence as humans, right? and the ingenuity of human brains with the metaverse and data and technology and all of that stuff, we're just stuck there. And what if it's better to die? You know what I mean? We'll never know though. That's interesting. You
No,
know?
you're right. I think about that all the time, actually, because technology is so like it's a part of our life at this point. Like we can't stay without our phones. Like it has to be there. Like when we wake up, it's there. When we sleep, it's there. Like it's there all the time. So I feel like at a very basic level, it feels like we're already uploading our consciousness to it. Because like when we die, our Instagram is probably going to be there. Images are probably going to be there. Tweets are probably going to be there. You know,
Yeah.
all of these data is already being collected. Now, you were talking about, artificial super intelligence, which is actually a thing that Nick Bostrom talks about. Um, and it's quite scary. I think it's probably gonna happen like from years from now. And the reason why I say it's because we have this narrow deep AI at the moment, which is not that good. I mean, like look at Siri. It's not that perfect. And when we have this perfect sense of narrow deep AI, then only we can go to artificial general intelligence, which is like when our consciousness and sentience level is the same as them, same cognition. And then whenever we reach this artificial super intelligence is when all of this apocalyptic stuff is going to happen. Like the ones that we see in science fiction movies, robots killing us, AI killing us, and all of that stuff. Um, and I think it's inevitable. We cannot stop evolution. We cannot stop all of this technological evolution path that we're on. So yeah, it's very deep.
Everything that we imagine, we create. We do. Think about it. This is magic right here. You're thousands of miles away from you and me from you, and we are seeing each other real time and talking. Magic. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. We're here. We're in it. We're in it. So imagine explaining this to people 500 years ago. No way. 100 years ago. No way. You know what I mean? And it's accelerating so rapidly, right? It's hard to keep up with it all. And I was also thinking about this yesterday, actually, how I was driving and I'm just looking at all of the cars on the road. And I was thinking about music. Like when I was growing up, we had CDs, you know what I'm saying? No MP3s, no streaming platforms. So you would sit with an album, a CD, and listen to the whole thing. And it could be a classic to you, And then the greats, they had a limited amount of albums in their lifetime. But artists now have so many albums. It's so noisy, right? It's so many, no one really sits. Like my son, we're talking about some music, some rap music, and he was playing a song like, yeah, I don't really like it. And I said, what's a quotable? I have no quotables. He's like, what are you talking about? I said, when I was growing up in the rap magazines, they would have hip hop quotables. So that would be like a verse from an artist that's mind blowing, right? I said, you guys don't have that. And he's like, I don't care about that. I just like the beat. I'm like, I understand that, but don't you think that's cool to write such clever stuff to where it gets highlighted in the magazine? You guys don't have that nowadays, right? So it's like we're getting more quantity and not quality. You know what I'm saying? And like cars, it's like they're constantly making so many cars, right? And it's not like cars biodegrade. It's like, where's all this stuff going? This is too many cars. It's too many people. It's too much everything. And I don't see no stopping it unless we have some kind of extinction level event, because I don't see us, at this point, I don't see us being a multi-planetary species. I just don't see it. Like, and I love Elon. I listen to everything and I tap into astrophysics and all of that, but I don't see it. The task, just for Mars, the task is so, you can, like, to build a setup on Mars, you would have to build something to build inside of, because you can have no exposure to their lack of atmosphere. You get cancer and die immediately. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, why even go there? So we don't have the means to travel far enough in any meaningful amount of time to get to a place that's habitable for us. And listen, I love science, right? But some things in science are just as fanciful as the Bible to me, if not more. I was listening to a scientist yesterday, a woman, an astrophysicist, talking about apparently these black holes that were revolving around each other. And she said it was 1 billion light years away. I'm like, come on, lady. How the fuck do y'all know that? 1 billion light years away? Come on. You know what I'm saying? 2 light years, we can like, okay, 1 billion light years. So it's like, and see, here's the thing, dogma, right? You know, religion is very dangerous. It can be very dangerous, but science can be as well, because if you have this stamp of science, don't question it. But it's like, why not? Like, that doesn't make sense to me, you know? This, like, what we're getting with science now, and some of the things that's put out there, is stranger than biblical stuff. You know what I mean? So, you know, and I'm all for team science, but I'm like, I don't know about this. I don't know about that. You know, how do you really know? So, you know, it's interesting. It's fun, but also, I guess none of it really matters. Our lifespans are so short. You know, we'll never know, and who cares? I care, but I still try to live in a moment and enjoy life while I'm here, because I'm here. So I want to enjoy it. I want to have fun, because I don't see honestly, I don't see much purpose for living other than to enjoy it. That's it. You know what I'm saying?
No,
I
I
don't see it.
really get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about music before, like music is so influential to me personally. Like so the way I identify with music is that I'm fully able to immerse myself in the music, like feel the lyrics, the music, everything. And so, you know, the way, you know, you were talking about CDs, like I do remember when I was like a kid. So it started with cassettes and then CDs, and then, you know, at some point it was radio, and then, you know, VH1 and like all of those channels. Then we had these streaming and YouTube and everything. You know, there was also a period where you would download on your desktop, and then import it to the iPod and then listen to the music.
Yeah.
So it's like a musical evolution there too, which is crazy to think about, because like, you know, music was first like, you know, all of these big ass, like, you know, what do you even call them? Like the things that
Record.
exactly records.
Even that, and listen, that is somewhat primitive technology, but that blows my mind that a needle can go on this thing and sounds come out. That blows my mind still. And we're so far past that. You know what I mean? It's just crazy. Like, I stop and think about things. I'm just like, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? How? A TV blows my mind that there's people in there. What? You know what I'm saying? It's just, listen, maybe I'm not stupid, but so many things blow my mind. I'm just like, how? How is that happening? You know what I'm saying? Even this, I don't understand it. I don't understand how we're able to communicate with each other. You know? But listen, I enjoy it. I love it. But it's interesting that we're such strange creatures, right? That we even can think about these things, that we could think about our mortality. You know, I have a dog. He doesn't realize he's going to die at some point. It's not even a thought, you know? And it's funny because I blast the music. He'd be laying by the speaker. He doesn't even care. It's like, why is music so important to me? But this creature doesn't care. You know what I'm saying? How? Why are we so strange? Because I say we're strange because as far as we know, we're the only ones that think like this out of all the billions of species that's been here before us and that's here now. So, you know, I think it's really interesting. And that takes me to think about like life outside of here, you know, and when people speak on it. For one, me personally, I don't know if there's life out there or not. I don't think so, right? I'm gonna tell you, I don't think so. And I think that we are, like, I have a notion that we could be the genesis, the beginning of all life in the universe. Why not? People give so little credit to humans. Humans give so little credit to humans. I'm like, yo, it's kind of amazing what we've done to this planet in a short period of time, right? I don't look at pollution and the plastic and all of the things that people complain about, I don't complain because the nature of life is to create waste if we're going to be alive, right? I mean, if nothing else, we have to poop and piss. You know what I'm saying? That's what animals do. It's all around, but it benefits the earth in some way. So we have all these great thinkers. Make plastic, do something with it. You know what I'm saying? Do something with the waste, right? So I see everything as being natural. Everything is natural because it's all from here, from the earth. This chair is natural, you know, our phones, these microchips in here are natural, literally minerals, right? So I don't have this nature versus technology mindset, right? And when people come to me with that, I'm like, so you're cool with not having air conditioning? You know what I'm saying? You're cool with not living in shelter, protecting you from nature. You know what I mean? These beloved animals that you so firmly protect. You think they would do that for you? Nah. And I love animals. I love everything though, but I love humans a little bit more because it's amazing what we've created, right? Because animal lives suck. You know what I'm saying? It sucks. And ours is so like we have the luxury to do this, to enjoy life. But animals have to just exist, you know? They just exist, they just getting by. But it's so fucking strange to me that we have this level of consciousness, you know? Yeah.
I mean, we're Homo sapiens for a reason, right? Like intelligence, cognition, like you were talking about how, pollution, plastics and everything, like makes me think all the time, like creation and destruction are always going together. It's a duality that exists at the same time. There's no separation between them. When we're creating, we're destructing something. And it's like a yin and yang, right? Like creation, destruction. We can even say masculinity, femininity, but there's, always a part of it in each other. So it's always like that. Like we're creating, we're destructing, we're creating, we're destructing. It's never going to stop. Like, we can't stop that. That's just the nature of reality. Yeah.
Just like order and chaos, right? Chaos is necessary in order to create order. If there's no chaos, we have nothing to measure on what we need systems for, right? So there's no life. So you're right. Like we cannot exist without dark and light, good and bad, yin and yang, positive, negative. And none of it is good or bad. It's all just two sides of a coin, you know? And but people don't think about that. People they're really good and bad. Like, okay, you know, you hold firm to that all you want, but put yourself in a survival situation. Let's see what kind of things you do. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I don't really judge like that. And even like some of the atrocities that happened throughout history, it saddens me. But I'm like, shit, that's how it was back then. You know what I'm saying? Sucks, you know? So, and let's say like, for instance, like what we deal with here in America, Black people, right? So, yeah, it's kind of fucked up, right? However, shit, they created a monster. Like when you look at, they call us minorities, which is interesting, right? We're so not, you know what I mean? In America, race is really silly and weird, right? They come up with all of these arbitrary names and, and it's all about like population. So in the 1900s, when we developed the census report, um, you know, there was a right race, and that was European whites from Britain, right? Over here, they were like the Americans. So the Irish weren't white, the Jews weren't white, the Italians weren't white, all that. So when they were doing the census and they're looking at the numbers, they're like, yo, it's not that many of us, so we need more. So now Jews are white, everybody's white, right? And it's still going on. Like this past census, they changed. It's no more Middle Eastern, it's Caucasian now, right? Which is interesting. Because Middle East is not even that's an arbitrary thing that came about in the 1900s as well by the United States and Britain to break up that region. That was Africa, Asia Minor. It was not the Middle East. Like, what is this, right? So you have Africans and Asians now that have to classify themselves as Caucasian, which which is interesting, you know? So race is just a silly thing. It's not scientific and it's arbitrary because it changes. Like somebody can type it up different and now it's a different category. So, but anyway, I'm getting off subject. So people that look like me that came here via the transatlantic slave trade, we could look at it like, damn, we had it rough. Or we could look at it like, shit, we're fucking strong, right? Because this is what people don't realize in some of the numbers. When we were being marched, you know, in Africa from the shanty lands to the coast, because you would go from villages, coast, shanty lands to the coast to these slave castles and dungeons before the trip to South America on up. And let's say out of a family of 10, right? The march was so grueling and so long, 7 out of that 10 would die. So 3 out of that 10 would make it to the castles and dungeons. And then you got a whole journey on boats packed with sardines to South America. 1 or 2 of those would die, right? So us here now, when we see each other, it's like, yo, you're looking at fucking strong people. Respect each other, you know what I'm saying? Because the people that came before you made it, they didn't die, they're here, you know what I'm saying? So, and outside of that, when you look at like Blacks around the world, right? We're everywhere. South America in large numbers, majority. Of course, Africa, one of the biggest continents, parts of Asia. But none of the other Blacks or descendants of Africans have some of the noise being made or achievements that we have here, you know what I'm saying? And I think there's a reason for that, you know? It's kind of like United States is a place that most people want to be here, right? And no knock to my white brothers and sisters, but they haven't contributed much to the culture, you know? Now, we have Latinos, we have Indian, Asian, Blacks, everybody's contributed to culture. But when you look at like all these different sectors of industry and culture and entertainment and everything, excuse me, sorry about that. We kind of dominate, you know? And I think it's because we've been forced to dominate, you know what I mean? We had it so hard. You know, when you treat people bad, they come out great. Look at Cinderella, the story of Cinderella. You know what I'm saying? Like they treated her like shit and then she got to marry the prince. You know what I'm saying? And it was beautiful and all of that stuff. So when Black people, I talk to Black people and they're like, yeah, but this, I'm like, shut up, stop it. White privilege, I'm like, get out of here with that. You got Black privilege, you know what I'm saying? And even me in business, you know, I got a lot of companies and I do a lot of business with a lot of people, and these white people, they're dying to do business with me. I'm like, me? All right, you know what I'm saying? So it's interesting. They really want us to be a part of everything. They need us for a lot. You know, a lot of people lean on me for a lot of decisions, and I love it. And I respect them and I love them. And here in this culture, it's such a divide. In this country, it's such a divide between Black and white, and it shouldn't be, because whites here in this country, you know, and I'm talking about the high level of each, are excellent. They have excellence, you know what I'm saying? Their systems, everything is perfect. And then the Blacks here in this country at these high levels are brilliant, you know what I'm saying? Fluidity and thought and creativity and all of these things, man. And the merging of the two is crazy, it's great, you know? So, you know, it's so much silliness out here. And it's just like, y'all are stupid. Like everybody's on this, on that, like come together, you know? And, you know, what makes this place so great is we have every culture here, you know? I've been all over the world. I haven't been to India, but I've been to a lot of places and everything's cool. I've even lived in the Middle East. I lived in the UAE for a year. You know, I lived in Europe for a year. You know, I lived all over the place. I spent a lot of time in Australia. I've been everywhere, Germany, you name it. Nothing is as good as being here. And I didn't appreciate America as much as I did when I started traveling the world. You know what I'm saying? Because Germany was great, but it was just German. You know what I'm saying? Netherlands was cool, but it was just Dutch. The UAE was cool, but it was just that. Mexico is just that. Here is everything and everybody. You know what I'm saying? And it just makes life so interesting. You know what I'm saying? And it's so much to learn, you know, and it's so much culture. I love it. And then I'm from New York. So New York is literally a melting pot of culture in its purest form, you know, nothing watered down, you know. So I love it, you know. I love America. I'm not a patriotic person. I don't wave the flag. I think that's silly. Like, I didn't do anything to be born here. This is by luck. My parents had sex here and I was born. There's nothing to qualify me to be here, right? So I don't think I'm better than anybody because I'm from here. You know, if anything, people that's not from here, I want them to come here. Let's help make it better. You know what I'm saying? And I like learning from people, you know, and I'm really fascinated about other cultures. And I'm drawn to other cultures too, you know. I guess, you know, you're interested in things that are different than you know, real interesting. But my grandmother, her mother was from India. Yeah. Yep. She's East Indian. My grandmother's from Trinidad and Tobago. So, and I seen the picture of her mother and father. He was a real strong black, like black as his shirt, black man. And her mother looked like you, you know, it was an Indian woman, real beautiful. And their picture was so cool. She was sitting, he's standing, no smile on his face, very stoic and strong, you know. And I'm like, damn, these are hard people, because, you know, life was hard back then, you know. So it was interesting. A lot of mix of Indian and Africans and Chinese and Africans on that island, Trinidad, for some reason. Yeah.
No, you're right about so many points. Like, you know, I feel like the issue of race is like, it's not even race, it's the issue of colorism. And it's crazy, like, you know, like someone just decided that being white is good and being, you know, black could be, you know, like we have to alienate these people and make them citizen or whatnot, you know. It's crazy, like even with Indians, you know, the
There's
British.
a reason for that. There's a reason for that.
Oh, what do you
Like,
think the reason could? Yeah.
not what I think I know. Like, if you look at history. So at the time of colonialism, you had Belgium, you had Spain, you had France, you had the UK. They were the great colonizers throughout the world. Now, in order to do what they were doing, they had to have a lot of marketing on why it's okay to enslave this group of people. So they taught that these people were not humans, were animals, were cattle, were dangerous, were rapists, like you name it. Even in Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, we see a cleaned up version of it, but it was very racist. They had a hierarchy of race, and they had the European Caucasian as the standard, and then it just went down the line, you know, and everybody else was a caricature of who they are and subhuman and all of this stuff. So small brains and, you know, all of these characteristics. This was Charles Darwin. People don't even talk about that. And I have in my office where I was just at, like, I have artwork all over the place, and I have people that I admire on the wall, right? And in that group is Mahatma Gandhi, right? I respect him. But even him, in his genesis, he was racist because he took on a colonial British perspective. You know what I'm saying? When he was an attorney. Of course, he shed that over time, right? And as I was reading, there was a lot of people from India who shared those notions because it's not their fault. You guys were dominated by the British. So you had to take on the slave masters or the colonizers' mentality. And that's kind of like Stockholm syndrome, right? So even Black people here in this country, you know, there was huge portions of like Blacks that hated Blacks, you know, because on the slave plantations, they separated us and made us, you know, they took some Blacks that you could sleep in the house, but you tell me if they out there doing this or that or whatever, and you tell me, you get rewarded. So Blacks were like, boss, he's doing this. They're trying to run. They're doing that. and they go get them, whoop them, whatever, and I get rewards. So they hate me, I hate them. It was a brilliant but evil plan or tactic to divide and conquer, you know? So, you know, and listen, as egregious as it sounds, there's gotta be a lesson in it, you know? There's gotta be something to learn from that, you know? So, so yeah, so that's why these hierarchies of race, even in your country, I know there's caste systems and the darker ones, or, you know, it's interesting because I watched a documentary when I lived, I wanted to go to India. I never made it though, but I was watching a bunch of stuff about India, caste systems, and even living in Dubai, UAE, is a lot of Indian and Pakistani and Afghani. And, you know, the ones that were super poor and at the bottom, I'm like, these women would be models in America. They're so beautiful, you know what I'm saying? But they were treated like shit. In this documentary, this woman, it was like a higher up woman, and then she had her servant girl, and she was like, I treated her good, you know. She let her sit on the floor and eat with her, like on the floor. And that girl was so beautiful, right? And this lady was like fat and soft, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, I wonder if she's just, part of it is like they hate them because of, you know what I'm saying? Certain, like they feel certain levels of inferiority, you know what I'm saying? Even though they have more money and status, but you know, it's weird. It's all weird. And people are very dangerous and weird, you know? So, you know, that's the bad side of these brains, is people can be manipulative and hurt other people and advance at other people's despair, you know, which I don't think is cool at all, is wrong, you know? So when I have like, I never look at things black and white, but that is black and white. I feel like that is wrong. To advance yourself at the expense of another human, you know what I'm saying, is just fucking wrong. You know, and people like that should be ashamed of themselves, but you know, what do we do?
Yes, it's just, yeah. No, you're right about the casteism thing here. It's crazy. Like I would say with our generation, I feel like it's getting better, but like I do see that, like, you know, in our parents' generation back, you know, there's still like, you know, your Rajput, which is like, you know, the kings, that we used to be the kings, and the Brahmins are like, you know, all of these priests, and they're supposed to be, you know, the best. And then you have the Shudras and like then Dalits and all of those people, and they're like, no, that's bad, you know, that they can't even touch you because, you know, like they're that. It's
Yeah,
ridiculous, like, you know, like, well,
yeah,
what are you guys even up to? Like,
right. All right, so I gotta go, but
yeah.
I wanted to share this with you about here in this country. It's so weird. So when they had the abolishment of slavery, right? It didn't go away. It was just because it became illegal, but they had other ways to manipulate the law to keep it going because it went on for a long time. So what they did was they came up with these laws called Black Code, right? Have you ever heard of this?
No,
No?
yeah.
Okay. All right, so weird. So it was laws that aimed at Black men, not the women though, just the men, because that was more of a that was what they needed to work. The men, you know, they can do more work or whatever in the plantations. So check this out. Now, on the plantations, like the slave master would routinely rape the women, the slave women, right? Yes, it's a well-known fact. Like, say, for instance, one of our presidents, Thomas Jefferson, he had like 20 Black kids. You know what I'm saying? Because he had a lot of slaves and he would have kids with all of them. You know what I mean? So this part is so deeply rooted in in our history. So, but nonetheless, rape was very common on the plantations between slave masters and women slaves, right? So when they wrote these laws, they wrote it in a way that depicted Black men to be rapists of white women. Now, let me tell you something. Black people, even to this day, to an extent, were so afraid of white people. There was no Black slave raping no white. They wouldn't even look at them. You know what I'm saying? So, but it was like, the laws were like, a Black man cannot whistle at a white woman. A Black man cannot offer to light a cigarette for a white woman. a black man cannot reach out to shake a hand of a white man or a white woman. It was so weird, like all of these laws, because if you violate any of those, you get thrown in jail, you get beat, and then they lease you to a plantation. So now that's how it became a business. Well, it's always been a business, but they modified their business model. But it was all around black men and white women. And it's so weird. Like when I was reading this, I was like, nobody thought this was weird. You know what I'm saying? Like, why are these laws? But it was such a male dominated society at the point, like women had no say in anything. So nobody can say anything because it was them writing the laws. So it was just so bizarre here. But silly type of thinking and society like that doesn't last long. That didn't last long. And it's just getting better and better over time. You know what I'm saying? And Black people didn't become liberated just because we wanted to become liberated. It took a lot of good white people to say, this is not okay. You know what I'm saying? So I try to point that out to people all the time because some people, it's a lot of things that's triggering here in this country, and they want to hold on to it and be like, yo, this is terrible. I'm like, look, it's not that bad. And it's really not, it keeps getting better and better and better, and there's more and more Black millionaires than there ever was. Like, it's just like the world is opening up to us here in this country, and it's just a good time to be alive. And over time, people who think like that are racist, that hate other people or sexist or whatever, their numbers are getting smaller and smaller. They're ostracizing themselves over time, and they're becoming obsolete. People don't want to stand next to them people anymore. You know what I mean? They still exist, but they're not impactful. They're not important, So things here are getting good, It'll never be perfect. It's 300 million people here. It'll never be perfect, but it's getting better. And I'm speaking of 3 million here, 300 million here, but you guys are about to be the #1 country in terms of population. You guys are passing China like any day. It's crazy.
It's not good.
It's a lot, yeah.
It's really not good. It's a problem of education, really. When you don't talk about issues like sex and all of that and protection and that stuff, and it's like taboo because like religion and the institutionalization of religion, how one is supposed to be, one is not supposed to be.
It seems like India, certain factions of society seems to be very open with sexuality. Is that not true?
No, it is. Like, I think so. Even it's not even sections of society. It's like how modern you are. Like, like even if you talk about sex, like everyone has those preconceived notions that you can't have sex before marriage. You just cannot have sex with everyone. Like, like there's no LGBTQ and nothing. Like, it's us. I would say Generation Z and like people like that seem to be very open, are actually educating our parents and grandparents about that.
What about like, I don't know nothing about this, but I always thought that just me looking at some of the art and how the women would dress with like the pants and like all of this open in the midriff, I thought it was incredible. It looks good. And then like Kama Sutra and all that stuff. And it seemed like these are all ancient ways, you know what I'm saying? And beauty. And it seemed like it's all, it's always been what's the word? Like a beautification of sexuality to an extent. Is that not?
No, you're completely right. Completely right. Yeah. Like here in India, like it's like I can wear this and go out right now.
You can't?
Like, no. Like, because people are gonna stare and I can probably get raped too. Like that's the thing here. Yeah. And also the more modern you are, the more open you are, people judge you for that. Which is crazy, like, because I have open ideas, I can talk, and I can dress whatever way I want, No, like, you're a bad girl, like, you're just a bad name for the society. And like, you should not exist. You should not influence our kids, because like
those are weak, insecure men saying these things.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? All right. So another question. I got so many questions for you. So I know I'm a difficult person to hold down, right? Why did you want to do an interview? Just curious.
Here's the thing. So when we connected cybernetically, at first I was like, wow, professional boxer, everything, like this guy seems like the deal. And that's like one layer to social media, you see. And then, I searched your name everywhere on YouTube, Google, and I was like going through all of the videos. And then I saw the Tyson interview. And the reason why I say the Tyson interview was a thing for me was because you were so real and open about, your struggle, your dad was there, everything. I have actually seen that interview 3 times. Once with my mother, actually. I actually showed it to her, like, look, how much people struggle and how much people get ahead in life. You were saying about the like before, so much struggle has come out with, quote unquote minority people, as they call it, but they don't ever realize how strong we really are, and how much physical strength, how much emotional strength, more or less, like it's not easy to break us down because we've seen so much, and especially with your community, like it's crazy how people perceive you and what you really are. So, that's why I interview, because like, there's one layer and then there's the depth. And I saw the depth in you. And I was like, no, this guy is motivational. I have to like really talk to him. And so far this dialogue that we've had, it has been naked in a way. It has been pure. So, like I would really thank you for coming on and having this naked dialogue with me, because like it is pure what we just had. Like, there was no filter. We just talked like two human beings. You're all the way there, I'm all the way here, but we're having this like deep conversation, which is real. And we need to have more of these real conversations.
Well, listen, I gotta go, but I want to stay and talk. But thank you for being patient with me and to having me on. I know it's probably really late out there where you're at, right? But I think this is really cool, and it means a lot to me that it meant a lot to you to do this, and even to show your mother. I think that's so cool. I want to know what her opinion was. But I like you. I am drawn to incredible people, and it was something there that I saw already, right? With you, I was really intrigued by you. But this conversation exceeded my expectations, right? And I would love for us to talk more, and we'll invite you out here. We bring you out whenever you're ready to come, and show you around California and just talk and build. Because what you're talking about these different layers and depth, like I'm a baby still, and I'm excited because I got so much to learn, and I love learning. So, we can share knowledge, share information, share wisdom. We can do some psychedelics, you know what I'm saying, and tap into those higher frequencies, So yeah, this is a real cool experience for me. So thank you.
No, like thank you, like to you too, because like really, really good. Like your humbleness has calmed me down way too much. Like I'm generally a very anxious person, like moving like a hyperactive. But for some reason, this entire conversation, I was like like calm and like nice. Like you have like this energy, and this is also one of the reasons why I showed my mom like like the video, because I was like, Mom, we need to see this. Like this is the real stuff, and she actually really liked it. You wanted to know. She was like and she's actually like sitting there and she's waiting for me to like show her this thing, because like she's
wow.
inspired by you.
Hi, Mom. Hi. That's cool.
I'm not gonna take much of your time, but really thank you for having this really pure dialogue with me. Really inspired me, and I think it's probably gonna stay with me for a really long time. All of these amazing words. Yeah.
Likewise, but this is just our first talk. We're gonna have many more.
We're gonna have yeah.
Sure. All right. Have a good night or day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.